It's BBC Introducing in Devon. We are here in the glorious setting of Exeter University. Unfortunately, the sun was out 5 minutes ago. It is now just clouded over. And we're joined by two of the members from Bombay Bicycle Club who are performing at Exeter University this evening. I wonder if I could just get you gents to introduce yourselves to begin with.
My name's Ed, and I play the bass in Bombay Bicycle Club.
And I'm Suren, and I'm the drummer.
Let's start with Exeter. Let's start with Devon in particular as well, because I've seen you perform live in Devon once before down in Plymouth. Perhaps Devon isn't necessarily known for having these grand venues for now #1 album selling artists, big named artists who are coming down to play the county. Bristol, I suppose, seems to be one of the main venues, but you've been down here on a number of occasions. You've made the effort to come to Exeter University tonight. Is there a particular affinity with Devon, with the band?
I was just thinking about the gig we played in 2012 that you mentioned. We played I think it's called the Plymouth Pavilions. And that was one of the best shows on the tour, actually. I think you get a lot of people coming from kind of as far as Cornwall because people don't come here and play shows. So you're always going to get a good crowd of people who are very excited to see you. You know, there aren't that many bands that come here, as you say.
There's not. Is that a conscious decision then because you like Devon? What do you know about the county, and have you had a look around the city, or is it the management saying, "Get down to Devon. We want to sell some albums down in Devon"?
I'll let you in on a little secret. Exeter wasn't actually on the original tour plan that basically our booking agent will put a tour together. Originally, he'll come back with an initial plan, and then he'll ask for our suggestions. And I think it was Jamie, our guitarist, who said there's a distinct lack of southwest gigs. So we specifically asked to add in Exeter, and here we go.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, I'm here on behalf of BBC Introducing in Devon. I'd done a little bit of digging and a little bit of research, but couldn't find anything about yourselves with an introducing history. But you've alerted me before the cameras have started rolling this afternoon that that's not actually the case.
Well, my memory's terrible, so I'm fingers crossed this is true. But I seem to remember playing on the BBC Introducing stage even at BBC Radio 1's Big Weekend in 2009, which I think was in Bangor. Was it in Bangor?
Could well have been, yes.
And actually, that's one of the first times we ever played Always Like This, which became a single and probably our biggest song. I remember it distinctly because it's the first time we ever had a backing track, and we were doing it off an iPod Shuffle, which is obviously one of the riskiest things you can do because it is designed to shuffle music around. I think it went okay on that occasion, but it certainly went wrong afterwards.
So let's, if people aren't aware of Bombay Bicycle Club who are listening into this then this evening, I've actually got, and this is a funny thing which came up on the show last week. One of the local bands who came into the studio couldn't actually remember the name of their debut EP. So not even just a long back catalogue, their debut EP. So I hope that's not the same for you and you know everything off the top of your head by heart. But I'm going to present you with your 4 albums. We're going to play a track now from Bombay Bicycle Club. Okay. If we don't know about Bombay Bicycle Club, which is the track that we need to play for an introduction to the band?
One off each album or just one?
Just one song.
That's a very, very difficult question. All of our albums sound incredibly different from one another.
We're going to touch upon that, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say, and this is quite a strange choice, but listen to a song called Cancel on Me from our first album first. It's it is the first song, in fact, that I think was written for Bombay Bicycle Club, even before the band started, when Jack was 14. So, I don't know, it's a good place to start, you know.
You touched briefly upon your performance at the BBC Introducing stage at Radio 1's Big Weekend and the fact that you were playing from an iPod Shuffle. Tell me about the origins and the beginnings then of the band, because there's going to be a lot of young bands listening in to you this evening who want to get to the stage you're at the moment. Were there perhaps some dodgy names before Bombay Bicycle Club was hit upon? Were there kind of nasty, horrible, grungy garages that you were rehearsing and performing in?
Well, the funny thing is you can't get more dodgy than Bombay Bicycle Club, so we already shot ourselves in the foot with that one. I wasn't in the band to begin with. Suren is a member of the band. He can better answer this question.
It was actually me, Jack, the singer, and Jamie, the guitarist, who started the band originally. We were all in the same class together at school, and our head of year he knew that we each played an instrument, and he just asked us to get together to play something musical for a school assembly. So that was our first gig, very rock and roll. It went really badly. I think like Jack's mic was off, and yeah, it was all a bit of a mess, but for some reason we decided to carry on anyway. And yeah, Ed joined just a little while afterwards. He was like a mutual friend, and we actually asked him to join at a funeral, which is a bit of a strange saying, I suppose, but there we go. And yeah, I mean, our gigs early on were pretty few and far between. We had a couple of friends who started putting on underage nights, because yeah, this was when we were 15, 16, so it's difficult to find venues to play in. And yeah, we played at some of their underage nights. And then quite early on, Jamie just on a whim entered us into this competition called Road to V, which is a competition to Open V Festival. And he didn't even bother telling the rest of us, because, you know, he just did it kind of as a joke. But we ended up winning it. And yeah, got to Open V Festival when we were 16, which was pretty amazing. But it was a bit early, because it was one of our... We hadn't done many gigs before then.
So did it pick up from that point onwards then, or after the competition win, was there very much a lull when you got back down to business?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much a lull. I think some people think that was like our big break, but yeah, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, obviously we got some exposure on TV and stuff like that, but yeah, then we just kind of went into hiding a bit after. There was a bit of record label interest, but we specifically didn't want to. We wanted to wait to sign a deal. We just felt it was too early. We wanted to mature a bit, and we wanted to finish the 2 years of school we had left. So we went back to school, and yeah, it was only after finishing school when we were 18 that we recorded our first album and signed our record deal just towards the end of making the first album. So we actually made the first album without any label influence, really. Not that any of our not that any of the albums that came after that were heavily influenced by our label either. They kind of, for the most part, just let us get on and do our own thing, which is great.
So going back then to that first album, to Road to V, and there will be lots of bands who are listening into you who are entering these kinds of Road to V competitions, uploading their music through BBC Introducing, hoping that they might get that slot on a stage. Might not necessarily lead to anything later, is what happens with you, and you had another couple of years working on it, on the album yourself.
Yeah.
If we go to the first album, I mean, Always Like This was the first song that I heard from you, and made me instantly want to go out and get a copy of the single and the album itself.
Yeah.
Was it down to a particular track then that you achieved this success? Because people will be wondering, do we enter competitions? Do we write a whole album? Do we focus on one particular track to just make sure that gets on Radio 1 playlists and that's the song that's going to break us? What kind of advice would you give to those bands?
Well, actually, Always Like This was written really near the end of recording the first album. It wasn't a particular song that did it. This is going to sound incredibly cliched, but I think the most important thing is not to worry about the playlist and not to worry about getting big or playing festivals or playing big shows, and just play with your friends because you're having fun, and get your friends to come down to shows. And if you're having a good time, I think people will notice and, you know, pick up on something that's exciting. You know, when people have got their eyes on the end goal, they kind of ignore all the fun things that come with being in a band at the beginning, and I think that's the most exciting part of it. So I would just say have a good time and don't try to do any of these things, BBC Introducing or playlist or anything. And if you're good and having a good time, those things will come along naturally.
I think it's all very well trying to write like a big radio smash and, you know, try and make that your breakthrough. But I mean, there's so many bands that, yeah, just have a big radio smash and then kind of disappear. So, I mean, you've got to have the other material to back it up. We've always been a kind of band that is mainly interested in making a complete album as opposed to radio hits. I think that's important.
Talking of the albums then, you were mentioning how you weren't wanting to be influenced by labels and management and perhaps even producers. Well, again, we'll talk about the new album shortly and the fact that it's produced by yourselves. That's always been a conscious decision of yours not to be influenced, and you've done everything your own way over the years.
Yeah, we can be quite stubborn. But yeah, I think the label quickly realised that, and I think they just trust us. I think there have been some points in the past where they didn't necessarily agree with what we wanted to do. For instance, they were not entirely convinced about releasing Flaws, our second album, which was very different to our first album. But they let us go ahead and release it. I think we all thought it would just be a thing we just put out there. It wouldn't really gain much attention, but it actually gained a lot more attention than our first album, and a lot of people latched onto it. So yeah, things like that, where we've sort of, I guess, put our foot down really, and they've gone along with it, and it's worked out well in the end. I think, yeah, it's led to a good working, trusting relationship with them.
And the new album then, Now Where We're At, was completely written, produced by yourselves. This is you in the studio over the last 12 months or so,
Yes.
putting it together.
This is 100% us. We had pretty much complete creative control anyway, but beforehand we were using producers in the studio, and we went to two producers to try and do this album. One guy called David Costin, who did the Everything record and a bunch of other stuff, and a guy called Ben Allen, who did some of a different kind of fix. And the sessions were great in themselves, but a lot of the time we were trying to recreate sounds and kind of a feeling that we'd made on the demos previously. And we thought, if we've done this already, why don't we just make this record ourselves and do it how we want? So we did it like that, and it gives you a hell of a lot more freedom. You can just experiment all the time, go back and forth with songs. It also gives you a lot more time to write songs, so you can cherry pick the best ones. We had twice as many songs written for this album as went on the album, whereas previously we had 12 songs. We'd record 12 songs and then put them all on. So it just gives you a hell of a lot more freedom.
An amazing album as well. I've got a copy of the album in front of me right here. I mean, the single Carry Me particularly, it's just, when listening to myself, just a complete jump sometimes between different genres. Carry Me is a club anthem. That's one you can dance to in a nightclub, proper dance tunes.
Was In the Club, I think. Yeah.
And then Home by now. If there's not a sample from a West Coast, East Coast American hip hop artist with the backing beat for that, it's got to come next year, because that to me sounds like
slow jam. Yeah,
it's amazing. And then there's Bollywood in there as well too.
Yeah, it's pretty weird when you put it like that. I think it does make sense when you listen to the album, but if you look at everything that's gone into it, it's pretty strange. Thank God our fans stuck with us.
And I need to congratulate you too. It was a #1 selling album as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I don't really know what to say about that one. Nothing in our lives has changed particularly since that's happened, other than being able to say you have a #1 album, which is nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things you just kind of ignore, forget about.
So I'm going to put this one on you then. Playing the album tonight at Exeter University. Again, if no one's had the time to visit So Long, See You Tomorrow, the brand new album from Bombay Bicycle Club, which is the track that we need to play.
I'm going to say Feel. That's the most Bollywood inspired one on the album. It's got a nice dancehall flavour. It's something that probably people didn't expect of us, but yeah.
It was actually written in Bombay itself.
So we're seeing Bollywood dancers on the stage tonight. What can we expect from the live show?
We have stepped up the live show. I don't want to give too much away, but it's all projection based on the artwork, and feel is distinctly influenced by Bollywood and, Bombay.
Speaking of live performances as well, I noticed a tweet that you put out on at Bombay Bicycle saying that you are delighted to be headlining Reading and Leeds festivals this year. Back to where it all began, you said. So again, you must have been playing there on tiny little stages all those years gone by. Bands want to be doing that right now, and you're back. I mean, what's been the secret of your success to then go on all those years later and to be a headliner?
I think there are a couple of things. We're all very good friends, and it started off, like the whole band came together with just people that wanted to make music together, and that still exists. And I think it's more, because our sounds changed, it's interesting for everyone, including ourselves. I really don't like it when a band tries to make the same album 3 or 4 times. I find it boring, and I think a lot of other people do too. And it dies out if you're not doing something that you're excited by yourself.
In terms of going on the uploader, typing in Bombay, I've noticed lots of bands include you as their influences and their inspirations. There are now lots of bands popping up last year and this year with the word Bombay in their actual band names, so perhaps you've been an inspiration there as well. When I came to see you down in Plymouth at the Pavilions, you had Leanne LaHavas as your support there, and obviously you were really, really talking her up. She then went on to produce an amazing album as well herself. I'm not quite sure who's supporting you tonight. Yeah. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about them, and then maybe any other artists that you feel that we need to be looking out for that you're really behind.
Yeah, well, actually the first on support at that Plymouth show was a girl called Ray Morris, who is now the main support on this tour. Because we were all, I remember watching her every night on that tour a couple of years ago. I was just blown away by her. It was just her on her own, singing and playing piano, but now she's got a full band with her. And again, I'm just watching her every night, and she's just amazing. And she also sings on a couple of songs on our album, Overdone and Luna. So yes, I'm sure she's gonna blow up in the next few months. I think our album comes out in the summer.
Leanne's actually coming down tonight. By chance, Ray Morris's bass player goes out with Leanne, so it's back to the old tour for tonight. Be fun.
Any other names?
Bands that I'm into, God, I always say Ray Morris. Suren's taken my shout. There's a band called Poltergeist. It's a 3-piece guitar band. I went to school with them. They're really good. I wouldn't say otherwise. I'm not just supporting them because they're friends of mine. Check them out.
Okay. Gents, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here at the lovely grounds at Exeter University. All the best for the show tonight. And I know when the next album comes out, I'm sure you'll be making another trip to Devon in the future, and we'll hopefully see you then.
I will be back. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.